faith stories,
My now wife Chelsea was like, "Hey, you're coming to church with me on Sunday," and I was like, "All right, I've been looking at the Bible. Let's do this."
fishing memories.
When I first started, I was just fish, focus on the fish. And I see the kid catch a fish, I'm like, good job, perfect, awesome. And then he goes up there and I'm like, we're catching slot snook. And this kid's up here going, oh, the breeze. I'm like, this is exactly what it's about.
Meaningful conversations.
You have to stay in the Word. You have to have a good support system. You have to know what the end goal is. You have to know who God is.
Positivity. This is the Faith and Fishing Podcast. Your hosts, Cam Steele.
If your identity is you're an angler, whenever you're not doing well in the water, that's whenever you can't be content.
And Robert Randolph.
And his timing is perfect. We might not always agree with it, and we might not always understand it at the moment.
Bring you interviews with some amazing guests from the fishing community and discuss all things to do with fishing and their faith. Welcome to the family.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm Cam.
Hey, and I'm Robert.
And we have a great episode for you that we're really excited about. First, we're going to just ask, Robert, how are you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. So work's crazy busy. School, baseball, and softball are winding down. We're into next week is the last week of that. So I think my daughter's softball team is probably going to make the playoffs. So that may be extended a little bit. My son's on JV, so there's no playoffs for that. And just on the weekends watching some travel basketball and just staying busy with that. And it seems like, the good fishing time is their sports crank up and it gets harder for me to find time to go out on the water, but that's the way it is right now. What about you?
I hear you. Yeah, it has been a bit of a rough and hectic past couple weeks, but yeah, I'm excited. This is going to be a fantastic conversation coming up on the end of my own call week. So that's always like a big load off your shoulders whenever you get done with your own call week. But yeah, so wanted to say real quick, if you are someone who was listening on Google Podcasts and you had to get rid of Google Podcasts because Google did away with Google Podcasts, and you've been wondering why in the world you couldn't find Faith and Fishing Podcast on YouTube Music, which took its place, I apologize for that. There is a setting whenever you send your RSS feed to YouTube for your podcast that is how do you want it to default for visibility settings, and the box that was checked was private. So if you were looking for us on YouTube Music, you can find us now. I was up pretty late the other night getting that done, but you can actually listen on YouTube Music now. So if you're on the in the spot of you had to switch everything from Google Podcast to YouTube Music, we are now up there. So I wanted to give that bit of information out there to you. But yeah, Robert, you got any kind of housekeeping, fishing talk, or anything that you wanted to get off your chest before we dove in?
Man, I don't. I haven't even. I couldn't tell you the last time I've been fishing. I'm kind of embarrassed to say that, but even the work pond has not been getting hit. I've been still doubled up in this transition time from our company was purchased by another company, so we're transitioning over to a lot of their stuff, a lot of new roles. So I'm doing my old job, part of a new job. So I haven't even been able to sneak over during lunch to catch a few. But tomorrow's Friday, so I may be caught up enough. I may sneak over there tomorrow and see if I can catch a couple of big girls. We'll see.
All right. Yeah, I haven't been fishing in quite a while, and I know the listeners are tired of that, but get used to it because we are approximately, just based off of due date, we're approximately 32 days away on the baby countdown. Um, so don't get your hopes up about hearing any major fishing stories anytime soon. Um, but I might be able to sneak out at some point over the next couple of weeks. But it's all going to depend. We've got a lot going on. So yeah. But let's go ahead. Let's thank Get Outdoors really quick, and then we are going to we're going to get our guest interview going.
Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle is one of the largest canoe, kayak, and cycling retailers in the Southeast, with a huge selection of kayaks, canoes, bikes, and all the accessories needed to experience paddling and cycling comfortably and safely. Get Outdoors helps to expand and educate the paddling community through their free demos held on local lakes in the Greensboro, North Carolina area, and through in-store clinics and on the water courses and demos. And will even get your new boat rigged up for kayak fishing for you. Stop by the shop in Greensboro, North Carolina, or visit them online at shopgetoutdoors.com to be wowed by their selection.
All right, so this week we have Barry Lawrence coming on, and Barry is a friend of ours. He fishes our tournament trail, and he's he's a pretty proficient angler if you look at it. If you look at his Facebook page, but he's going to tell you otherwise. But yeah, he's a real strong in his faith. He's worked in ministry for quite a while, and currently he's going to let us know about his new position with FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, unless they did a FFA rebranding that I didn't hear about. But yeah, Barry, man, welcome to the show.
Yeah, guys. Hey, thanks for having me on. Hey, I just want you to define proficient angler. What does that entail? Because I'm just not feeling it for myself.
Proficient means you're able to get the kayak or boat to the lake and you're able to cast and reel that in. Has nothing to do with catching fish, because he's called me proficient for a long time and I don't catch that many fish. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm still working on getting it to the water. So yeah, okay. There.
I will say with Barry, from what I've seen on Facebook, he doesn't necessarily get out all that often, but when he does, he always tends to land at least one big one. So
yeah, that's the problem. I enjoy all kinds of fishing, but yeah, it's been a long time hobby and just a thread of something I enjoy a lot. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Go ahead and let us know who Barry Lawrence is.
Yeah, who is Barry Lawrence? I used to have a lot of different answers to that, but I think I've kind of, now that I'm in my mid to late 50s, for me, it's Barry is first a child of God. That's my identity, and that's what helps me wade through the waters of seasons of life and circumstances. So try to keep that first and foremost as best as I can. And but I'm a husband of 34 years. Married to my wife, my high school sweetheart. I'm a father of 3 and a grandfather of 4 now, as of about 2 months ago. And yeah, and beyond that, I've been in the corporate world for about 15 years, and then into ministry now for about 17 years in different things. But yeah, and then beyond that, I'm serving with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes now, and that's kind of my day-to-day role. But yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. Try to be pretty simple. Our family loves having fun. We have a good time with grandkids and kids still. And our house has always been the one where everybody hangs out. It was always our doors open. Our refrigerator was open. So the neighborhood kids like that. And yeah, we've spent a lifetime of, Robert, I was listening to you. We've spent a lot of time on ball fields and, taking our bag chairs and tents and watching baseball and then golf, and then the girls were into volleyball through high school and college, and now we're just waiting for the grandkids to get old enough to, chase them around. They're getting close, but it'll be just a little longer. But yeah, I guess that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. Well, let's unpack it a little bit, and let's kind of start on the fishing side. So
Yeah.
kind of give us your fishing background. What is it you like to fish for? What got you started into it? All that good stuff.
Yeah, man, I'm kind of like I like to catch whatever's biting normally, but I grew up an Army brat around Fort Bragg. My dad was in the Army for 30 years, so we traveled around the world. He married my mother, who's Okinawan or Japanese, and so we spent some time overseas. And my uncles in Okinawa owned a sushi bar. He would go out in the mornings and catch his fish, and then serve that evening what he caught. And so I got to see it. Never fished with him. I was really young then. But I guess my earliest recollections of fishing were in Fort Riley, Kansas. I was probably fourth grade, and we would go to a place called Milford Lake. And back then I was watching, Jimmy Houston and Bill Dance and those guys. And man, just trying to figure it out, So we would go to the lake, and I'd grab my little rod, and if I remember right, some curly tail grubs, some hooks, and just trying to imitate what they were doing. And one of my greatest memories of my dad, he passed a few years ago, but we were at the lake, and I finally caught one, and it was like, okay, he was more excited than I was, to the point when I got it near the shore, he went in after it and made the mistake of grabbing the line. And to me back then, it was probably a 12-pounder, if I'm remembering right,
That's right.
And the last thing I remember was him coming up and throwing the grub back at us, and then the disappointment on my dad's face, but also just the laughter and the fun, and remembering that. And then moving back to Fort Riley, Kansas, we had a little pond above our house, and I would ride my bike and take my pole and go up there and fish and come back fish till dark, or till they told me it was time to come home. And so those were the early days of fishing. And we would go to the coast and pier fish and surf fish. And so I got a good taste of a lot of things. But I guess up to what I'm doing now, I love bass fishing and crappie fishing, and but I also love going to the coast, and working on the trout and red drum and flounder. And so it's just a gamut of things, but we live closer to, to Jordan Lake and Sharon Harris and that area. So being able to get up and bass fish, there's kind of a passion this season of life. And then, of course, like a lot of people, when COVID hit, the kayak came into play. So that was a good way to isolate and distance yourself. So, my buddy Sandy got some kayaks, and that's when we started getting out on lake kayak fishing, and ran into CCKF right as it was getting started. Part of the first group, I think, out there on Sharon Harris that went out that evening and fished some. But yeah, that's been kind of the journey. And it is. It grows and changes, and we went through a season last year of fishing out of. We thought, we're getting a little older. We need to get in a boat. It's a lot easier to turn the key. And so did a little bit of that. But, man, we sure missed the kayak fishing. So this year we're really focusing back on that. So, yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but that's kind of a snapshot.
Absolutely. So I did not know that your mom was from Japan. So
Yeah.
I'm curious. Do you speak Japanese?
Squishy there. I can understand more than I can speak. It's funny, there's a large contingent around Fort Bragg of Japanese Okinawan ladies, and my mom's part of an organization, and they'll get together and I'll be listening, and I can get the gist of what they're saying, and every once in a while I'll chime in, and suddenly their eyes get real big, like, oh, he can understand us, like we got to be careful. Yeah, but wonderful food. My mom lives with us now. We take care of her now that she's in her mid 80s, but she still loves to cook. I mean, she's probably cooking now. She stays up most of the night watching live Japanese TV. She loves baseball. She's a Hugh Ohtani fan, and she watches baseball in Japan, and she's cooking. So if you guys need some food, hit me up, and we can do some egg rolls or teriyaki chicken or those type things. Yeah.
And careful what you offer there, buddy.
The open refrigerator earlier kind of got my attention. I was like, yeah, that's the way to pull those kids in for sure.
That's right. We enjoyed it. Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. So let's I'm gonna let Robert tackle the tournament fishing question. I know it's burning into him.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you? I mean, just give us some color on your tournament fishing and your the kayak side of it, and then what you guys did last year as far as the boat side of it. Is that something you guys do some team tournaments last year, and just put some color on that?
And to add to that, what drew you to going from fishing for whatever was biting to competing?
Yeah, so let's start there. I'm competitive in nature. I played baseball and football, middle school through high school, and then I did the old church softball stuff after much too long. I did that, and so there's a competitive nature in me, and so with the fishing aspect, we got into the kayak fishing, like I said, about 2001, and enjoyed that, and got started with CCKF, and Mitch was doing and is still doing a great job with that club, and just enjoyed the camaraderie and getting to know guys like you and the two of you, and we say we go out there to make the donation so guys can get paid, but
same.
But we enjoy it. It's the competition, but it's also just the fellowship of the guys and hearing the stories. And I love the way folks share information. It's people aren't tight-lipped. If you don't need to know something, or you're struggling, they're going to help you. There's so many guys that do that, and so we had been doing that, and then decided we want to try the boat for a while. And really, we had gotten the boat to go down. We like to fish New Bern and around Jacksonville, the New River, and the Trent River down in New Bern, and the Noose. And red fishing's great, man. It's a great fight. So we did that for a while, but from where I live, it's over 2 hours.
Yeah. And
a day trip was just wearing us out, and we're like, man, we got to do something where we enjoy it, but we are exhausted, and so we said, well, let's get back in the kayak and get back involved with fishing the lakes around where we are. And man, we went probably like a lot of people, we went through an evolution of kayaks. I think I started with an Ascend, and we've had Feel Free, we've had Three Rivers, we've had there's just a lot of different kayaks, and worked our way up, to the dream we had of having a pro angler, a Hobie pro angler. Did that, and but I sold mine when I bought the boat, and kind of Sandy had an extra kayak, so I would just fish out of his extra one, and but most recently, when we thought, okay, let's get back and fish competitively again, I got into a new canoe, Unlimited, and man, I am loving that kayak. Their claim is it's a blank slate. You can just kind of do what you want with it. So I bought one from a guy. Actually, he was in Jacksonville, and it had the pedals already in it. And so you do what you start adding your stuff, and added my fish finder to it. Now I'm like, okay. And I was like, I'm gonna stop there. That's plenty. And then you get out and you fish, and you see the guys, the XI3s running around and spotlight, and you're like, the last tournament we had up in Jordan, it was so windy that day. We put in at Pose Ridge. I'm like, we're going to put in there because we can hide a little bit out of the wind. But still, I was like, man, if I had spot lock, I would, I'm sure the fish would just be jumping in the boat. And so that's the next tier probably. That's gonna happen, I imagine, at some point. But that new canoe, man, with the swivels, the 360 seat, and just the space. I'm loving it. And, you know how it is it's a comfortable seat too, it's simple, but it sits up enough. It's like sitting in a lawn chair, kind of like the Pro Angler. But to have all that space and the options to put stuff on, it's really, really cool at an affordable price compared to some things. But yeah, but the competitive aspect, I probably had my best finish in a while at Jordan, and it was a tough day in the wind. And, I got out there and I fished a wacky worm early and hooked a really nice one off a point, and got him to the point, boat excited, and horsed him too much. And he came back and nicely gave my wacky worm and hook back and swam away. And the rest of the day was pretty tough. I actually switched up and went small, went to a Ned rig and started fishing it, and picked up 2 really quick, and then a third one later, and a couple that were too small. But it was a tough day. I was thinking, man, I'm glad to have 3, and ended up somewhere 15th or something. But, and all that does is get you excited for the next one. So, yeah, you start thinking what, I guess we'll be at Falls Lake next week. And so I'm already thinking, okay, what's the game plan, And for me, it usually comes back just to a few things, but we'll probably talk about that later. But yeah, competitive fishing for me is, it's more fellowship than it is competitive, but I'm going to try hard no matter what. Yeah, it's nothing like winning, right, in anything.
That's right. All right, so I have a selfish question here. So when are the real life guys coming back?
We started that, Sandy and I, and we had some great guys on, and
killer guests.
We are just really busy. Family, and you know what it takes to do this. I think we would both love to do it if somebody else would put it together, right? So, if we had a producer and an engineer and all, that ain't happening, right? So, but we love people. We love just doing this. We love chatting about stuff we enjoy and laughing at each other, and crying with each other sometimes, whatever it takes you to. But I'm glad you asked that. I'll have to talk to Sandy and say, hey, we've got a request from Cam. Let's see. And we enjoy it.
So for listeners who might not have stumbled across it, just kind of give us just a quick rundown of it so that they can go back and listen to those few episodes, and then you'll have even more requests coming in for new episodes.
Right. Yeah. So we called it Real Life Guys, REEL Life. And, and it came out, we just wanted to be real. We wanted to bring on guests that people need to hear their story and need to hear their, about their life and their background, the things they enjoy. And I think things people could relate to, and some of our guests, were pretty high profile folks, but when they come on, they were just the average Joe. Let's talk about the things that, what happens behind the scenes, what's home like. And, we would talk about that and fishing a lot and different things, but we'd also talk about things of faith. For both Sandy and I, we grew up together. We played baseball together at Western Harnett High School, and kind of after college went our separate ways. And about 7 or 8 years ago, God kind of brought us back together in ministry here in North Carolina. And so we started fishing together and traveling. In fact, we're leaving tomorrow for Pennsylvania on a little trip, but our families are. But we've done a lot together, and we're like, let's do something just to help people hear more about people's lives and that are making a difference, whether they're in the spotlight, or it might be someone that, that's a teacher at a local school that's doing some awesome things that loves to fish, or is fishing's a hobby. Maybe they don't competitively fish, but they fish some. So we enjoyed it, and we probably ought to do something with it again. But yeah, Real Life Guys is a fun time. I don't know, what did we get in? 1 episode, 2 episodes, Cam? I'm not sure.
I don't know the exact number. It was definitely more than one. It was.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the exact number, but it was not near
Yeah.
enough. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I really do.
Yeah. So let's talk FCA.
Yeah.
So let's kind of break down what it is that you're doing with FCA. If there's anybody who has not come across the FCA before, kind of introduce FCA to our listeners, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so FCA is the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and most people have probably heard that in your school as a club, either before school or after school, for athletes and even people that aren't athletes to come and hear, a Bible story, and usually there's refreshments and just a fellowship time to try to encourage student athletes in their faith. And I remember it growing up as just being that it was the FCA club. And so for me, I worked, like I said, I was in the corporate world for 15 years. And maybe even back up further than that. I growing up as a military brat, there were some two constants. One, my parents kept us in church wherever we were stationed. I say we had a drug problem growing up. They drug us to church every Sunday, and but now that's a good thing, right? That they did that, but the other thing was sports. We were involved recreation sports. It was on Fort Bragg that I was in about the second or third grade. I was playing baseball, and that my mom still has a picture just around the corner of me in a little uniform. It's a green shirt, and the name of our team was the Wolfpack. Now I know that doesn't, I'm a state grad, right? I know it's red. I'm like, what were they thinking, But yeah, so even back then that started, and baseball, got into football later, and then our kids, my son played baseball in Lee County, and then switched to golf, played at Barton College, and then my daughters played a little bit of Sand Hills and went on just to do her education, and then the other daughter played at Methodist and Montreat in volleyball. And so we chased a lot of that around. So sports has just been, faith and sports have been a theme in my life. And so, when I was saved back in 1983, there were some folks in my life that helped me learn to walk the walk. It's just that I wasn't just going to walk the aisle and get saved, but now here's how you're to live your life. And none of us are perfect. I went off to NC State and definitely didn't live the perfect Christian life there, but I've always desired that. And even now, I was in the corporate world for 15 years, and then God called me to full-time ministry. I went to seminary. I pastored a church in Chatham County. We were missionaries in Brooklyn, New York for a while. Started a new church near Fort Bragg in 2012. And then most recently was what's called the Associational Missionary and Baptist Life for the Sandy Creek Association in the Chatham and Lee County areas, and just helping churches be a resource for them. And but all through that, I'm still Barry, right? I'm still flesh and blood. I still, have things in my life that people are like, well, you think that, or we're still human, but yet when I was saved, I've been covered by the blood of Christ. But it doesn't mean I'm perfect. And so I've been on this journey. And last fall, I was approached by someone said, we need an area director for Morley and Harnett counties for FCA. I was like, okay, what is that? And so it's pretty much building up a team of representatives in those areas to help reach coaches and athletes in schools, so that they would have a growing relationship with God and the church. And so kind of went down that road of interviewing, and I'm like, sports and Jesus, together, that's going to be awesome. And so just in the last few weeks, I've actually, we're all self-supported like a missionary. And so I kind of hit the mark where I'm officially on staff now. And so, yeah, just reaching our middle schools and high schools, in colleges in the area, trying to start huddles, Bible studies there. But FCA has really grown. I mean, it's international. We just had a conference in Florida, in Orlando, 3,200 people there that are all part of FCA. FCA is in over 100 countries now. As the central part of North Carolina, we partner with Israel, which how timely is that right now, right? So we have some missionary FCA folks there that are doing like a kind of like a gym, a workout gym. We have some in cycling. And so we're on a conference call with them once a month. How can we pray for you? How can we help you? What do you need? And obviously the needs are great right now with what's happening over there. But using sports there, we're taking trips there to do camps and things like that to reach the kids there. So international is one part, and then there's travel. Travel ball's huge, right? All over the place. So how can we, come alongside travel teams that, we had the same, we would be gone on weekends and, we would be gone on Sundays, and we're like, okay, how do we continue to be what we're called to be on Sunday and still yet? So we try to equip, teams and coaches to still disciple and do Bible studies while families are away from church. Team sports is huge right now. So that's another avenue. The other place, though, there's FCA All Abilities for people that have disabilities of different types. So doing camps and those type things for them to have a place to be involved with sports. And then there's FCA Outdoors. So that's fishing, hunting. There's cycling. There's motocross. There's just all kinds of things. So when we say Fellowship of Christian Athletes, it's just this huge, organization now that's really using that platform to tell folks about Christ and what he can mean for their life. And so it's kind of like right now it's me and one other guy in the area, and for those 3 counties. And then it's chaplains, a good friend of mine now is a chaplain at NC State and for football, and there's one for football at Carolina. Wrestling at Carolina, there's chaplains in pro sports through FCA. So it's really far reaching. And, when I speak, I still preach and speak at different places. And when I say, how many of you have kids involved with sports or grandkids? It's like the room fills up, hands are going up everywhere. Yeah. And what if we could use that to help them grow in their faith? How awesome that would be. I don't know about you guys and what your sports background is, but I was counting back how many coaches I had up through high school, and I counted 22 coaches. I probably left out some. And, you think about the effect they have on your life and the time you spend with them. And if we can partner that, if they can instill things of faith as well as skills on the field or court or whatever it is, how effective that can be. Billy Graham made a statement. He said, coaches will spend more time in 1 year with students than most people will have an effect on a child's life, because it's intense time. It's time crying, laughing, victories, losses, all those emotions. And you guys can probably name people in your life, that were coaches. You remember that, like, yeah, all these folks. And so FCA is kind of saying too, now we want to work through coaches to athletes. So that's a big part of what's happening. So I'm excited, man. I think it's, and I've talked recently with some folks, there's the high school bass fishing tournaments and those type things. How cool would it be to, get that going in the area where we've got teams of high school guys and gals fishing some of the national tournaments and those type things in the name of Christ. So yeah, that's something down the road. It's kind of like, how do you eat the elephant, right? So one bite at a time. But right. Yeah, we're looking forward to the possibilities there. Yeah,
absolutely. Sure. Yeah, I thinking back at coaches making an impact on people, like it's relatively minor, but I mean it's part of my identity. I mean, a coach was the first person to call me Cam. So my name is Cameron.
Really?
And growing up, there was a while that in 4th grade I was like, you know what, I want to do something different. I'm going to go by my middle name. So I told the teacher to call me Taylor. I told everybody to call me Taylor, and everybody who would call me, I wouldn't answer because all my life I'd been Cameron. So
Yeah.
my basketball coach was trying to get my attention and was yelling down the court. He said, Taylor, 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 and I just wasn't paying attention. He goes, Cam, and I stopped and turned around, and I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so,
It's awesome. And so you remember those things. I mean, our times on fields and courts in the middle of team competition growing up is etches a lot of things in your heart and mind, some good, some bad. But it's if we can etch things on the heart, I think it's we'll see. We that we're in a time in our world where we desperately need it. And kids and adults are searching for answers, and if we can do that through the avenue of sports, how great is that, right?
absolutely. So you mentioned that you kind of uh, work like a missionary. What is it that if our listeners are wanting to know how they can help, what is it that you need? What is it that FCA needs? And how do listeners get it to you?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me. I'd love to talk with folks that have just interested in FCA, period. And even if it's not in my area, we're part of the Triangle FCA. So we're the southern part where I am. So Triangle FCA goes all the way literally to the Virginia line. And so, yeah, there's the website fca.org. And you can see there's stories. I don't know if you guys watch ESPN, but the 30 for 30 stories, there's those kind of things on there where you can see how God's working, and that's a great resource. But there's FCA reps all over the place, and if you want to support it, you can go on and see who's in your area. You can go on and there's a place where you can do fca.org/donate. And it'll bring up, you can put in this where you live, and it'll bring up the reps in your area. Or if you know one by name, you can put Barry Lawrence, and it brings up me and what I'm doing and how you can support that financially. We have camps through the summer. There's team camps, and there's boys and girls camps, leadership camps. There's football camps. I think we had 36 slots for football teams to come this year to 3 different locations, and they filled up almost immediately. So whole football team. And it's one thing about FCA I learned right away, everything is done with such excellence. So they're going to get pro and college instruction along with devotional times. And so the camps fill up quick. So that's a big part of what we do is we try to do fundraisers, golf tournaments, banquets, those type things, so we can have the funds to say, hey, if Cam's kid wants to go to camp but really can't afford it, we want to make sure it gets there, right? We don't want any kid to say, well, I couldn't go because I didn't. We want them to go. So we'll have those things. We give out Bibles to teams, resources for studying the Bible, and all that. As people donate, it goes to help those as well. So if they want to reach out to me directly, they can reach out to blawrence@fca.org. That's my email through that. And I'd love to talk and discuss that with folks. I kind of say it's game time. We're a couple of generations of. I'll tell this story. When we planted the Lakes Community Church outside of Fort Bragg, it was one Christmas, and my wife was working with the kids to do a Christmas program, and she wanted to hear their voices to see, who could sing, right? So she said, let's just sing Jesus Loves Me. And I don't remember, there's probably 9 or 10 kids in there at that time, and none of them knew the song. And it was a real eye-opener for us. Of course, we had grown up in church and, in the Bible Belt, but we were like, wow. And I think now it's like Sunday's just another day to a lot of folks. And, I respect what folks believe. I have convictions about what I believe. And, for the folks that are willing to listen, I'm more than willing to share. But we have some generations now that haven't been in church, and so here's an opportunity that we can do that before or after school within the parameters of what's allowed through our laws and all. And but yeah, so yeah, that's the way to do it. FCA.org, or just get in touch with me, and I can get them to whoever else can help them with questions they have about the FCA. We're looking for leaders. We're looking for more folks to come on staff. Um, as an FCA representative full time. I didn't know it could be a career. I always thought it was a volunteer at school but it's a great opportunity for somebody that loves sports or has been in sports and wants to be in some sort of ministry and have an impact and coaches in young people's lives. It's a great opportunity. So I went to Kansas City for some training back in January. It was the weekend that the Chiefs were in the playoffs. You remember when they were shoveling out the stadium? I don't know if you guys are football stand. Well, I was there then. We were like snowed in the first day, and people were telling me, man, if you get snowed in Saturday, you can go to the game. I'm like, no, it's like -6 and windy. I'm going to watch it from here on TV like I would at home. But the cool thing was, man, at that training, there were so many young folks that were like just out of college. And they're like, man, we played sports. I played football. I played volleyball, whatever it is. And I feel like God's called me to ministry. And that's why I'm here. And I was like, man, that's awesome at that age, to take that big, because most people come out of college would be like, yeah, I'm going to start the career like I did. I need to climb the corporate ladder and do all the successful things. And I had the same thing happen. I went to work with Russell Athletics right out of NC State in Alabama. And I really felt God was calling me in the ministry. And I was kind of like, okay, hold on, God, I just finished college. Let me do this thing and check in with me later. And, God still used me through those years. And then, in 2015, 2005, I was like, okay, yeah, I got you. It's time. I was doing really well, corporate world, making more money than I thought I'd ever make, but I was miserable because I wasn't doing the thing I knew God had called me to do. And so I resigned and went to seminary and did all that. But it can be a ministry when you know God is calling you to something and you say yes, he then opens the doors of so many things that you would have never imagined. And for me to be, sitting here talking to you guys on a fishing platform about sharing Christ with folks, who would have put that on the radar, right?
Right.
No way. But here we are, and so I appreciate the opportunity to do that. And if there's other folks that say, hey, I might be interested, we have full-time, part-time, we call ambassadors to help. We need volunteers and those type of things. So would love to speak to anybody that's interested in being part for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll add one thing. That's probably a good choice to watch that Chiefs game on TV. We were lucky enough. It's probably been almost 20 years ago now, but we used to work for a restaurant company and we moved around quite a bit, and we ended up being able to go to Kansas City and open up restaurants up there for the company we worked for. So we were there for maybe 3 years, and we were lucky enough the guy that repainted our house we bought there had Chiefs season tickets. So he was like, I'm getting ready to get rid of these. I can just gift them to you. So we paid him and he gifted them to us. So you still had to pay for them, but it
Right.
was a very long line to get Chiefs season tickets. Like Arrowhead sells that. I mean, it's hard to get. So we were
Yeah.
lucky enough to get a couple of those tickets, and we went for 3 years. We went to every home game, and my wife will still tell you to this day that's the coldest that she's ever been in a few of those games, because it's just something about Kansas City. The wind blows all the time, and it gets cold. We had a great time, but man, it gets cold, and it's
Yeah.
a bone chilling cold.
Yeah.
But we
I
loved
said
every second of that.
we had spent 4 years at Fort Riley, Kansas when I was growing up. But, as a kid, you don't realize how cold you are. Now I know. We got there. I was like, yeah, this is different. In fact, our driver that took us, we had one of our, they chose somebody in our group to be the driver from the airport to the hotel. And so the guy gets in there and it's starting to snow, when we get to the airport. And I'm like, hey, yeah, so have you driven in this? I said, where are you from? He said, I'm from Texas. And I said, you've driven? He says, no. He said, but I watched some YouTube videos before I came. I'm like, oh, man. That's when the prayers really started. But, yeah, it's kind of cool. The FCA headquarters is right across the interstate from Arrowhead. So from the second floor of the FCA headquarters, you can kind of look down into that and see the baseball stadium and all that behind there. So it's kind of a neat setting.
It's a cool setup where they have this. For people that don't know, this 2 stadiums are side by side, so they use the parking lots for both. And most of the time, the games are different days, but it's probably one of the biggest tailgating areas in the world, I would say, because it's just as far as you can see, parking lot in all directions because those 2 stadiums are side by side. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of things that come full circle, because when we were stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas, at that age is when I was kind of forming who I'm pulling for. So the time it was the Royals. It was back in the George Brett days and all that. And now looking back, even I pulled for Kansas some, but when we got back to North Carolina, I was like, okay, who are you for? And I had to go with the Wolfpack. Winning the national championship in '83 and all that. So, and just got to go to Phoenix to the Final Four. My buddy, awesome. We grew up together down here through middle school and high school, and roomed in college all 4 years. He was living out there. He says, man, he was living out there one more month and he was moving back towards Pinehurst. He said, I'm out here and I've got tickets. You just got to get here. And I came away with 3 things, I guess. It was a wonderful, I wish we'd have won, but it was great to be at the Final Four, see a bunch of NC State people in Phoenix. Second was that, basketball is not meant to be watched in a football stadium. Yeah. We were on the lower level in the end zone, and I'm still watching that big screen. I mean, I could see who our players were, but it was a massive amount of people. And the third thing was, it's a one and done for me. It's like, yeah, we've been there, done that, and
check that box.
Check that box for real. But man, but I sat there in the end zone and looked, and there's 75,000 people sitting literally in front of me, all around me. I thought, man, and everybody there to watch this little round ball be bounced around and put through a metal ring at the end of the day. And that's crazy. Tell me again, hey, here's an opportunity, all over the world that people are watching the bouncing ball. And if we can be part of their lives through something like FCA, we've got to take advantage of it. We do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, man, we always ask every guest a couple questions, so we're gonna dive into that real quick.
About proficient angling.
I'm sorry. Oh, about proficient.
About proficient angling. Yeah.
Just about angling in general. Memories and social angling and all that good stuff. What fishing story or memory means the most to you?
Man, well, I shared one of them with Dad. Quick releasing my bass that was probably 20 pounds. He's growing every time we talk about it, right? And that's what happened.
There you go.
Now, hey, the other story memory I had, we were stationed in Panama, and we would go fish on the coast there at Panama. And I remember 2 things. One was the nets around the beach out in the water to keep the sharks from eating the people, right? And but the other thing I remember, we were fishing one day and we had caught a fish and we're bringing it in and probably had it, in my young mind, here's what I remember. The fish was probably 2 or 3 feet out of the water and a shark came up out of the water and left pretty much from just about the head was all that was left when we got it up there. And my sister was terrified, but I was like, that was the coolest thing, let's see if we can do it again. But yeah, those are the early days of pond fishing, just me and my bike and a simple can of worms and a hook and a bobber and just waiting to see if it would, catch anything. Or sometimes simple's the best,
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then usually, what do you, if you're out fishing with somebody, whether it's a tournament or just fun fishing, what's your conversation usually like on the water?
And I'm going to put a caveat here. What do you talk about other than the 32-pound bass that your dad lost?
Yeah. It's interesting. If I'm on the water fishing, Sandy's probably with me. And when we talk about this, people, if they were to just be on a fly, I don't know if you have a fly on the wall in the boat, if a fly is on the windshield or on the deck, we don't talk a whole lot. For us, I think our lives are just so busy. We just enjoy the beauty of the moment and the opportunity to be out there. I could fish every day. If I literally could just enjoy going out every morning and go out and fish. We don't get that opportunity. So when we do, when we talk, we'll talk about this or that here and there. But for the most part, when we do talk, it's like, hey, can you hand me that? Is it time to eat a snack? What are we, should we try something different? Do we need to move? So we don't have very much, that's the gist of most of our conversations, unless something crazy's happened or whatever. But, it's pretty much, but that's guy talk, right? If we call each other, camp, say, hey man, what's up? Yeah, I'm doing good. What time? Yeah, I'm going to be there. That, it's different than the ladies, that conversation probably take 15 or 20 minutes for ladies, but we're pretty, simple. We know what we're enjoying. We enjoy the moment. We ain't got to talk about it, but yeah, that's kind of us when we're out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Barry, it is time. We are going to dive into what's your favorite. So it's self-explanatory. You've listened to the show before, so you know that we're just going to ask you your favorite in a few different categories. So we're going to start that now.
It's time for What's Your Favorite, powered by Nakwa Adventure Gear. Power that fits in the palm of your hand.
All right, to get us started off, Barry, what is your favorite scripture?
Yeah, man, that's a hard one. We could go with the traditional John 3:16, or my youth days, it was Jesus wept, because that's all I can remember. But I keep coming back to Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. That tells us to trust in the Lord with all our heart, and lean not on our own understanding, but in everything acknowledge Him, and He'll make our path straight. And man can have plan. I can make all the plans in the world, but at the end of the day, I want to be doing what God wants me to do, because that's what's going to be the best for my good and His glory. And I'm trying to keep things in a kingdom perspective. It's not about me. It's about God and other people, and how I can serve other people and help them see through, hopefully through my life, and maybe a thing or two I say, that our identity is in Christ, and that's what's most important. So yeah, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 is kind of where I'm at right now. Yeah.
That's awesome. And it's funny you mentioned that about, Jesus wept, being the one that you can remember. Whenever I was working as a youth pastor and volunteering in different churches and stuff, there was always a few kids that would say that, and other kids would laugh whenever they would say that, and it's like, you don't even understand how profound that answer actually was.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So what about your favorite Bible story?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think that changes too, I guess, kind of where you are in the Word and what you're studying and reading. But most recently, it's been the story of the paralytic. This guy had been paralyzed his whole life, and he'd sit at the gates of the city and beg, to get money to help himself. So one day Jesus is in town, and his buddies pick up his mat and they carry him to Jesus. Jesus is teaching in this house, and it says the room was full. People were sitting in the windows, standing room only, general admission, get where you can. So they can't find a way in. And so they carry him up the steps, the back of that built house, take him on the roof. And in those days, the roof was made out of pitch, I guess, kind of like mud and straw and stuff. And they dig a hole, to lower him down in front of Jesus. And long story short is Jesus sees their faith, their friend's faith, and he heals them first of his most important thing is his sin. He heals him, forgives him of his sin. Then he tells them, hey, so that they will know that basically I'm God, take up your mat and head on out. You can imagine the people around probably like, dude, that guy every day is sitting at the gate. He can't walk, right? But this is Jesus. So the Bible says he takes up his mat and he leaves rejoicing. And I think it's an awesome story just because, it tells me when Jesus is in the house, look out, things happen, right? When Jesus is around. But the faith of those friends, for their friend that was paralyzed. And I think about even our fishing groups and things, it goes beyond, fishing, there's days when we need each other. We need that guy to call. Or, I'm so thankful for the prayer time camp that you've led for CCKF, that you just never know who's listening, and they may not voice it, but in that moment, maybe they'll pray or something will happen down the road, and they'll remember that because you, as their friend, took the time to say, hey, I'm here for you, and so that story to me speaks volumes about who God is and what we can be for each other. So you asked that question to a pastor, and that's dangerous. So,
That's a good one. Yeah.
Be careful. I'll get to preaching for long.
Absolutely. Well, this one is, I'm not going to be so naive as to say it'll be a shorter answer, but it will be one that'll be a little bit easier to steer. What's your favorite fish to catch?
Probably a red drum, just for the fight. And we like to fish for them on light tackle. You don't want to wrestle them too long where they get exhausted and have a hard time recuperating. But yet that first tug and they take off, there's no doubt what's on the line. We catch a lot of speckled trout too, but when a red drum hits, we were able to go to the Neuse River and fish for the old drum year before last. And it was like the end of the day, and we're trying all these things, and it's like, okay, one more cast, and as soon as it hits the water, Sandy's on, and I'm like, I think that's one of them. We finally get it. I barely got it in the net. The thing was like 48 inches or something, and massive. And we released it, and it swam off. It was like, okay, that's what we came for, He got the bite. I helped him. It was a team thing, but those red drum, man, are something awesome. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'd love to catch a bull red at some point. I've never caught a red over, I want to say like 29 inches, but
still a good fish. That's a good fight.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
And still, like you said, there's no doubt, that's a drum.
Yeah. Hey, look, I still haven't caught a bull red either. Sandy caught it. I guess I caught it. I had it in the net and got it in the boat, but he was on the end of the rod.
Team effort.
That's right, team effort.
Yeah. So, what about your favorite fish to fish for? So to trick into biting, the game of getting the bite. What about the favorite of that?
Yeah, bass. It's here we are in the spawn / maybe post spawn a little bit. So it's like thinking about next week at Falls Lake, where are they going to be? How are they going and they're never where I think they're going to be. Right. So it's like, what are you going to put in I'm trying to be as minimal as I can in the kayak these days. Cause I had those times of taking 5 or 6 boxes in my crate, something under the seat, some at my feet, all this stuff just in case. And then I end up coming back to, I fish like 3 things, So the art of trying to learn the bass and kind of the movement, and then you got the weather and it's the water temperature, and I don't know if you guys are into the moon phase stuff, your majors and your minors, and it can get to the point where it's just like a science project. Or I can just go out and fish, and that's kind of where I'm getting to. I'm learning, Barry, go enjoy it. There's some things you probably ought to do and some things you probably don't need to do, but don't get so caught up in everything that you miss out at just fishing. But trying to figure out that largemouth is a lot of fun. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
For sure. I always chuckle a little bit every time Robert asks the question, because Robert, you can tell he's a bass guy. Like he is a bass angler. Like Barry is a fisherman. Like he is going to fish for whatever's biting. Robert wants to fish for bass. And it's funny, like he always says something along the lines of like, well, this is pretty much the same question, but I guess it's different.
But it's I feel like because those questions are back to back, what's your favorite fish to catch? Is like, what's the favorite? Maybe we should reword it. Like, once you have the fish hooked, what's your favorite fight?
What's the favorite fight?
Fight?
Yeah. So you got the fight and you got strategy. Yeah.
I always feel like I have to explain it because to me it's kind of the same question, and I want everybody to know that it's a different question. It's not so much the bass thing, but I do like to catch bass, but I like the redfish and the trout and Spanish kings.
For me,
mahi. I'm good with all of it.
That's right.
I absolutely love catching carp, but fishing for carp is not an enjoyable thing. It is not.
Yeah.
You're dealing with the messy pack bait. You're you're sitting there, you're waiting in the rain, and like there is no activity. Like it is, you sit there, and it is one of those that like you have to be quiet, you have to be stealthy. You can't move around a whole lot. It's not a fun type of fishing. So I don't love to fish for carp, but I love catching carp.
You need to get out to Harris and catch all the carp you want. Everybody would be happy for you to do that, I'm sure.
Yes, please.
Every time I go, there's guys out there that are catching, they're cookie cutters. They all look exactly the same.
Oh yeah.
And they're all about 5 pounds. And they pull them in one after another. But anyways, Barry, what is your favorite fish to eat?
I'm a flounder guy. I think I like it fried, baked, stuffed, whatever it is. It used to be fun to go catch them and cook them, but now, you can go for one day a year and keep one. It's not much fun, but I grew up eating flounder. When I grew up here, there used to be a restaurant within about a mile of here when I was growing up called Rambo's, Beauts. And so we would go there and eat on Fridays, our family, and now we got Pedon's here and some other places. But whenever I go somewhere, I probably need to start eating more grilled fish now, though, scallops and those type things, trying to stay a little healthier so I can keep pedaling that kayak till I get my XI3. All right.
I've always been a big fan of the whole flounder. You eat one side and flip it over, eat the other side.
Yeah. Or you could be like my uncle that had the sushi bar in Okinawa and eat like everything. My kids were probably 7 and 4. I only had 2 at that time. We were over there, went to see my uncle, and he had fixed them chicken nuggets and just to meet their American taste. But he was eating a whole fish, and he reached down with his chopsticks and grabbed the eyeball and looked at them and it just freaked them out.
That's good stuff.
They eat the whole fish, nothing but the fish, and they gut it and all that. They ain't eating all that, but
a lot of cultures they'll get it like a whole bunch of little minnows about that big and fry them whole and eat them like potato chips.
Oh yeah.
So,
Again, we got the whole sashimi thing of the raw fish, and I
get
can never
the-
get into that. I got to have mine cooked.
Oh, I'm like, in my opinion, it is a sin to cook salmon.
Yeah. Oh, I guess that's my dad was from Danville, Virginia, so everything there was country style, So
That's right.
he's not eating. He said, "I ain't gonna eat any bait,"
But what about your favorite fishing snack?
Yeah, all of the above. That's part of the strategy for going out. Tournament day is what are we eating? Got to make room for that. Maybe that's why I'm taking less tackle because I need more snacks.
Like,
It's gotten to where I like beef jerky. It kind of is like I try to be careful what I eat out on the water for various reasons. So like some beef jerky. It's simple, like ham and cheese. But the best thing is for me is a peanut butter and jelly that's been in the bag for a while. You know what I mean, Robert? The one where the jelly started to come through the bread.
Yeah.
And you purposely wait a while just so you can get to that state. And it makes even a bad day seem a little better when you get to that. Are you guys crunchy or creamy peanut butter?
Creamy.
Creamy?
I like both.
Yeah.
But I don't like jelly. So
What?
I am a peanut butter person. So I'll do just a peanut butter sandwich.
Yeah.
And I'll do crunchy or creamy. That does not bother me one bit.
Okay.
As long as it's not a peanut butter I have to stir up, we're good.
All right. So I'm gonna give you a hot tip here. I'm pretty sure I've never shared this.
Okay, Rob.
This is for Cam since you don't like jelly. Peanut butter and syrup.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so you can just make it like a peanut butter and jelly. You can mix it on the bread, but if you really want to like get the full effect of it, get you a little bowl, put the peanut butter in the bowl, put you some syrup in there, and put you like about a half a pat of butter, like regular butter, in with it, and whip it up and put it on. Dude, it'll make your tongue slap your eyeballs out.
That was my father-in-law when he was like late at night. He would get a little saucer, get a little peanut butter, a little bit of syrup, and mix it up and get him some crackers and go to town.
I've done peanut butter and honey before, but I've never done peanut butter and syrup. I won't have to give that a shot.
Yep. I'm not sure if sometimes we may not have been able to afford the jelly, and that's all we had. I'm not sure how that came about, but a lot of people from Tennessee eat peanut butter and syrup. It's good.
Or you can go to Elvis and do a peanut butter banana sandwich, mayonnaise and all that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Too.
Yeah. I can talk food all night, so
Yeah, same. I was getting ready to say, like, when are we talking syrup? Like maple syrup and vanilla ice cream, like.
What? Wow.
But anyways, what are we on here? We are on Barry, don't need GPS coordinates, secret spots, or anything like that. But what is your favorite body of water to fish?
That's a good question. Are we talking bass fishing or just in general?
I'm leaving it open ended. I'm not making you.
I've gotten to where I really love Trent River in New Bern. It's kind of interesting because you can fish there and catch a speckled trout, a red drum. You can catch striped bass. You can catch a flounder. You can catch a crappie. You can catch a largemouth. I mean, it's that brackish water, that whole mix. You just never know. And just the beauty of that area, you can catch the kind of inshore stuff without having to fight tides. There's a little bit of them, but hardly any at all. It's more wind driven. Just the beauty of the area is just, it's therapeutic, it's one of those places just nice to go hang out. So as far as body of water and favorite place that's probably it for me.
Okay.
Yeah. That's good. I'm gonna have to check that out. What about your favorite lure?
Yeah. What's today?
It's like you said earlier, whatever Tactical Bassin did their latest video.
Whatever I quit watching. I just couldn't do it because I was heading to Tackle Warehouse, all these places as soon as the episode was over. And yeah, so I think recently it's chatterbait. And specifically, I've gotten where I like to fish the mini chatterbait.
Okay.
I was fishing the jackhammers and this time of year fishing that red crawling, but that chatterbait minis seems to draw more bites, and the big fish eat it too. So that's been kind of go a little lighter tackle. It'll skip about the same, and they even have the micro. Now, have you seen the micro chatterbait? It's kind of like the size of a rooster tail kind of thing. So yeah, it's an interesting bite. You guys know that because when you can feel that thing thumping through the water, and suddenly you don't feel that vibration anymore. And you're like, okay, am I hung up? Do I swing on it or not? And you really don't have to. I mean, you just kind of lean into it, and the hooks are great, and the fish love. Of course, you think everybody's fishing chat. It used to be spinnerbait, now everybody's like chatterbait, and that it's Ned rigs are kind of popular and all these things. So I try to start. Here's the strategy part right again. What do I go behind? Because you're going to go behind people, and there's so many folks fishing now. What is it people aren't throwing anymore that's going to look different? And it's kind of like the fish learn. They're not dumb. So it's like, what can I put in front of them now that's going to be different? But I'm going to have a chatterbait tied on, no matter what. Can cover some water. I like, I drop shot some, but it's so slow to me. I want to be reeling. I'm not a crankbait guy. I think it's because I hate dealing with treble hooks. Just to be honest with you, I'll fish the whopper blopper, but I hate dealing with crank. Thinking about most of what I throw now is single hook, and I think it's because I just don't want to have a handful of hooks, at some point. Yeah. But chatterbait.
Okay. Yeah, I have one of the micro chatterbaits, and the only reason I have it is I found it hanging from a little shrub. I was like, what is that? It's black and blue. Is that a little rooster tail or something? I went up there. I was like,
was it a fall? It was probably mine.
It was on Crabtree, actually.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But yeah, I was like, what is this? Like, I'll be doggone, this is a chatterbait.
They work too, man. When you get the first hatch and it's that small, you throw that kind of a white and silver. It kind of matches. Hey, you got to throw it on, spinning rod, but sometimes it matches pretty good. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. All right. Robert, you got the list in front of you? Is there one more or two more?
One more.
One more? Okay.
Yep.
All right. What is your favorite time of year to fish?
Daytime.
There you go.
We fish year round, man. I in the summer's tough. Everybody likes the spring with the spawn. That's probably right now. It's probably my favorite time. I mean, if I had to pick a time, spawn, pre-spawn, spawn, and post-spawn. Seems like it's a little easier, but I don't know. It's ever easy, right? Maybe it's just because we can see them, right? we know that they're. Sandy made a profound statement one time in New Bern. He said, "Barry, I figured something out today." I said, "What is it?" He said, "We ain't gonna catch them if they ain't here." I said, "Yeah, you're right. You're right. Exactly right." So maybe it's just because we can see them on the beds. We know they're around. Yeah.
It's like Paul Roberts says on near about every episode of Bass and Brews, you can't catch fish where fish ain't.
That's right. That's exactly right. A lot of truth in that.
All right. Well, Barry, we're going to start wrapping things up, man. If you could let us know what you got coming up for you, like what's next for you with FCA, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so we're just kind of doing some planning. We're hoping to do some kind of end of the year appreciation lunches for coaches, some of our local schools, and so we got that going on and trying to plan some, getting ready for the camps this summer up around Black Mountain and different places around the state. And then looking towards the fall, getting when students are back in for this fall, getting some new huddles started. And we're going to do a golf tournament this fall to kind of raise some funds and that type thing. So, yeah, just kind of taking some baby steps as we get started here to grow something. I think it's going to be pretty awesome in the long run. Yeah.
Absolutely. And if our listeners want to kind of follow your adventures, kind of give any kind of links you want to give, social media, YouTube channel, anybody, anything like that, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, man, that's pretty simple. I'm just on Facebook, Barry Lawrence. You can look me up and friends with you guys. So if you can find you guys, you'll find me and post some stuff here and there, from fishing, some pictures and different things. Hopefully in the future, it'll be more and more about FCA and what's going on with that. So you can find that there. And like I said, I try to keep it pretty simple. And who knows, maybe real life guys might show up again at some point. So we'll put the word out. Yeah.
And
get you guys on. That would be fun.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I want to give you an open floor to give any kind of shout outs, sponsors, supporters, anybody you want to say thank you. The floor is yours.
Yeah, man. I think, and you always thank your family for, especially my wife, for all that they do to support you and all this crazy running around and getting up at 3 and 4 in the morning to go catch some big mouth fish. So I always thank them. But recently, just for the folks too, but we have what I call my home team, and that's the people that support me prayerfully and financially, and really they are partners, helping out to accomplish what we're going to accomplish through God's help through FCA. So I've got a pretty cool home team of people I've known for a while, and businesses and churches and those things that are on the journey with me. So we don't do any of this alone. That's where we get in troubles when we try to. And so we I think during COVID we find out we need each other. We're built for relationship, and so knowing guys like you guys and the guys in our club and then my home team, that's important. We need that. None of us need to we're going to struggle eventually. We're going to have trials and things. So we need each other through those times.
Absolutely. Well, with that, man, Barry, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, man.
It has been a blast, and I knew I was going to enjoy it whenever I invited you on, but it did not disappoint, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. It's been a lot of fun. A lot of fun. You guys are an encouragement to a lot of people to keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All right. So, Robert, did you have anything you wanted to add to that one, man?
No, man, I think that was pretty solid. What a great guest and stories, and got to learn a little bit more about FCA, and pretty cool. So I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Yeah, just an absolute fun episode, and I mean, just a fun guy.
Yep.
But yeah, let's go ahead and close this one out in prayer. You want to pray for us this week?
Yep.
All right.
Dear Lord in heaven, thank you for this day. Thank you for allowing us to put this show on. Thank you for allowing Barry to come and grace us with his stories and letting us learn more about FCA. And please do your work through our podcast, through Barry and FCA and all the athletes and everyone that he's reaching through that. And please put your hand on it and touch whoever's listening to this, whenever they're listening listening to it and give them what they need in their lives. And please forgive our sins. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, man. You want to close us out?
Yeah, man. What a good show. We'll see you guys next week.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Faith and Fishing podcast. Please consider supporting those that support us. Jade's Jigs lead-free finesse tackle. Use promo code FNF10 at jadesjigs.com for 10% off. Save your outdoors. Stop losing your gear. Use promo code FNFP15 at saveyouroutdoors.com for 15% off. Omnia Fishing. Check out Premium, Premium Pro, and their Ambassador program. Use promo code FNF10 for 10% off at omniafishing.com. And if it's your first order, use promo code FNF15 for 15% instead. Mr. B Lure Company. High-quality handmade baits made right here in the U.S. MrBLureCompany.com. Use promo code faithnfishn for 15% off your first purchase. Get outdoors, pedal, and paddle. Check them out at the shop in Greensboro, North Carolina, or at shopgetoutdoors.com for all your paddling and cycling needs. And Nakwa Adventure Gear, lighting, power, and all the connectors at nakwa.com. Please rate, review, subscribe on whatever app you're listening on. That's going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care and God bless.